I'm Davida, an addict. I'm grateful to be able to share at this workshop. I was in on the programming subcommittee meeting where they came up with the topics. And we came up with this one, and we were all laughing about it, but in my mind I was saying, I want to share at this topic. Didn't say anything to anybody, and I get a phone call, and the programming chair calls me up and says, hey, we got this workshop. Best topic. Will you share at it? And I said, sure. He goes, do you want to know what it is? I said, yeah. And he goes, shut up and listen. And I'm laughing, and he's just had some other ideas, and he goes, well, I don't know what you're going to share about it. And it's like there's so many things that I want to share about this topic. And I'm grateful to be able to do so. Last night, I was sitting around the campfire, and I'm talking with another addict. And she's talking, and I'm listening, and then I'm talking, and she's listening. And pretty soon she's saying, this is one of the things I like about NA is that you listen to me. No one in my family ever listened to anything I had to say. And I was like, wow, that's right. Because I remember feeling that way when I first came into the program. And I couldn't shut up because I had stuffed everything for so long. And there was these addicts who loved me enough to just sit and listen to what I had to say. And showed me through their actions that they cared about me. Not just told me we cared, they showed me by listening. And today I try to apply that in my life. And for me, it's hard for me just to listen. Because of the abuse I went through, I'm not always there. I can find myself listening to somebody, and 5 minutes later, I missed 5 minutes of the conversation because my mind goes somewhere else. So to me, listening is a spiritual principle that I have to practice. And for a long time, I'd have to tell them, look, you know what, I haven't heard anything you said. Can you please repeat it? And by doing that, I didn't like having to do that, so I learned to listen more and recognize when my mind was going somewhere else and bring it back into focus. After a while, after I've gotten some of the stuff out, and I worked the steps, and I got done with the first step, and I was on the second step. And to me, that's what comes to mind when I shut up and listen is open-mindedness. I have to be willing to listen, not just hear, but listen to what another addict is telling me and suggesting to me. Because I have to remember, my best thinking almost killed me. Not just the drugs, what I was doing and my thinking. Thinking it was okay to continue to use drugs even though my kids were going without shoes. It was the insanity and the self-centeredness of this disease. To think that I wasn't hurting anybody else. And I came here, and in the first step I admitted that I was powerless over this disease of addiction, and my life was unmanageable, and that I by myself could not control this disease. So to me it made it real simple that I needed to be quiet and listen to what other people told me. And that's not always easy because my mind will still want to, or mind wants to look at your personality and blow off what you say. My recovery tells me that I can't allow your personality or my personality to get in the way. Because I've had people in the program that I have not liked, and sure enough, they said something that saved my ass. Because it gets real simple. It comes back to, I don't know anything about living life without drugs, or with them. What I knew killed me. What's killing me? I came in here spiritually dead. As a walking dead, I didn't know it. And I have to listen and get past my old ways of thinking that my way is the best. And that I only have, my way is the only way that works. Because open-mindedness tells me that I have to be open to new ideas. And when I'm not listening to what people say, I'm not being open-minded. And I'm cutting myself off from something that down the road could save my life. And, for the newcomers, they talk about, taking the cotton out of your ears and putting it in your mouth. I've been around for a little bit, and I still have to remember to take the cotton out of my ears and stick it in my mouth. Because my disease will tell me that I know what's best. And I want to get back to the therapeutic value of one addict helping another. We talk about that. Well, the only way anybody can help me is if I tell them what's going on and they listen. The only way I can help somebody if I listen to what they're saying. And if I'm not paying attention and my mind's somewhere else, then I can't help them. We talk about we don't care how much you used, who your connections were, what you've done in the past, how much or how little you have, but only what you want to do about the problem, how we can help. That requires listening. It's amazing how much of this program has to do with listening. Tells us how to do the right thing for the right reason. If I don't listen to what my gut is telling me, I don't know the right thing to do. And if my gut's all in the jumble, then I need to talk to my sponsor or somebody else and listen to what they're saying so I can come to a decision. Because today I have choices. And the only way I know I have choices is if I listen to what those choices are. And then I can make a decision. Because when I was out there, my decisions were based on how I felt and what I wanted. They were not based in reality. They were not based on whether it was practical. Wasn't based on anything other than my self-centeredness. I know for me that the more experience, strength, and hope I get from other addicts, the better decisions I can make. We're each other's eyes and ears. If I don't listen to an addict who comes up to me and says, "This is what I see you're doing," I'm cutting myself off of opportunity to grow. And when I came here, I decided I didn't want to die, and that I wanted to live. And in the basic text, it talks about we have to change our old ways of thinking or return to using. When I first came here, I didn't know how to even think. I was so wrapped up in what I wanted, where I would, where I was going to go to get what I wanted, and what I had to do to get it. And I had to listen to addicts who taught me how to think about what I was going to make for dinner, if those shoes for my children were too small, if they needed new clothes, because those are the things I didn't even think about. So I had to listen to them. My disease will tell me that I'm a terrible, horrible person, that I'm worthless and hopeless. And to combat that, I need to listen to the people in my life who love me and care about me, who tell me that I'm not worthless and that they love me. It all goes back to listening, and it's a spiritual principle for me, because it has to do with being of selfless service to others. I took so much when I was out there using from other people, and even early in my recovery, because I was so empty inside and had to be filled up with something before I could even do something about my problem. That to me, listening is one way of giving back what was so freely given to me. And to me, that means listening without judging, listening without saying, well, I think you need to do this. It means just listening with an open mind to another addict. And it's just as simple as that. It's not easy. I struggle with it still. I just know for me, and for this other act that I listened to last night, that's what attracted me here. That's what really kept me coming back when I didn't want to come back. That's what told me that you all cared about me. That's what told me that I was worth something. That's what told me that there was hope. Your actions. The words didn't mean anything because half the time I couldn't even remember them. It was just the listening. And sometimes I get wrapped up in my crap and my self-centeredness and my mind's going a mile a minute, and then I'll have a sponsee call me and just need to talk. And I'm grateful today that I don't tell it, well, you know what, I got my own stuff going on, you call somebody else. You know, that I can listen today. Yeah. And I know I was supposed to talk for like 20 minutes, but I really don't have anything more to say. So I'm going to shut up and listen. Thank you.
Our next speaker today is Glenn.
Good afternoon. My name is Glenn, and I'm an addict. And I'm a grateful member of Narcotics Anonymous. And I'd first like to give my thanks to my higher power for another day clean, the Fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous, especially the members whose experience, strength, and hope that has been shared with me over the years has given me the greatest gift I've ever received in my life, and that is a new way of life. And thanks, Joe. Where are you, Joe? Is it? Yeah. Thanks for the invitation. We played phone tag for a while. It's always an honor to be asked to share. And when I heard the voice message, all I heard was listening. And I was sitting there going, okay, I can do this. You know, that's something that I have evolved with over the years in my recovery. I don't always do it as best, the best I can, but I always try and follow that. And when I finally actually talked with him, and he said the topic was shut up and listen, I said, I really started relating then. I got clean in August of 1988, and that was the perception for us newcomers in '88 was the old timers. They were hard, and I know NA has evolved over the years, have gotten a little more politically correct, and we're a little more loving and caring. But it wasn't like that when I was new, and they told you, we got any kids in the room? Yeah, we do. Okay, sit down, shut up, and you might have a chance to make it. And that touched my defect of ego, and that touched my, well, you don't think I can do it. Well, I'm going to show you that competitiveness. And so I kept coming back and didn't always listen. My disease tells me that, well, that may work for you, but not me. Yeah, that may apply in your life, but not me. And my first sponsor said, yeah, Bud is the mating call of an asshole. and I got a lot out of that. And then he said, sit down, shut up, and listen. And I'm grateful for that. Thanks, Davida. Thanks. It's great to see the members who I know, the ones who have come from my home. I'm a member of Narcotics Anonymous in the Chicago region, South Suburban area, and I'm a proud member. And it's great to come here. This is a very beautiful site, wonderful location, very spiritual. I was out hugging a tree, and if you saw me, I'm not weird. I just believe in Mother Nature, and I was really grateful to sit by the lake and listen. Because, today I just don't ever know when I'm going to hear the message. I don't know who I'm going to hear the message from, in what form, in what shape. But if I get too busy in my life, I hear it, but I don't listen. And I really think that there's a big, huge difference in hearing the words and hearing the message and then actually listening to it. And I don't believe that, I know I've sat in the rooms many times, and probably some of the most profound things that have really struck me have been from a new member who's fresh and raw and is dealing with their feelings and sharing with me. And I think sometimes we overlook our new members. Of course we say that they're the most important person at every meeting, but do we actually listen to them? And I know when I was new, I really didn't know how to identify with what I was feeling. I was such a mess and just a jumble of emotions and pain and agony, and Life on Life's terms had just, had whooped me. And, but I see today that our new members have so much to offer. And I'm not talking about service. I'm talking about, they're helping me in my recovery today. And I know that the only way I can, keep what I have is I have to give it back. And, when I sit there and I like to focus on them, especially when they're sharing, because if we make eye contact, I want them to know that I'm listening to them. I'm getting kind of old. I'm 47 years old, and I got a real bad memory. So when when they identify themselves, I jot it down. I jot their name down, because when they, when I share, I don't want to say welcome to the newcomer. I like welcome Sue, welcome Bob. Because that's what made me feel good. It made me feel like I was a part of this thing. And thanks for sharing. And yeah, I can identify and I can relate. And how many times have we sat in a meeting and crosstalked? And I've done it a million times. And I don't like it, but I've done it, so I understand it. But just like Davida was saying, man, if you're sitting there cross-talking or thinking about what you're going to share when it's your turn, you may miss something that's going to save your life. We need to work this program like our life depends on it, because you know what? It does. It does. I've been to way too many funerals and wakes in my 14-some years, and I get a lot out of that. I listen to that message. When we welcome someone back who's made that unhealthy decision to go back out and use and is fortunate enough to make it back to the rooms, and they tell what it's like out there. And they reinforced what we told them, jails, institutions, and death, but do you really listen as to, what led them there, what got them there? Did you pray? Did you ask God, your higher powers, help? What step were you on? Did you talk to a sponsor? Did you call somebody? All these things, and they always tell me the same story. No, and they always get their butt kicked. Because I'm sitting there, I'm sitting there thinking that, if I hear someone said, well, I went out and it was like I went to the Bahamas and I took so-and-so with me, I'm there, But that's not what I've heard. The ability to listen, I believe, is a spiritual gift. Because, I respect the people that were here when I was new. I respect the people that are of service. I respect the people that have the courage to share, this did not work for me. I know some of my greatest lessons in this fellowship have come when I've fallen on my face. I mean, it's easy. This program is simple and easy when things are going good. Life on Life's term is just smooth, and you're just cruising along on that cloud of Narcotics Anonymous zeal. But let the road get rough, the water get rocky. What do we do? Do we that's the importance of listening, because that's the experience we have. When something's going on, oh yeah, so-and-so shared it okay, now I'm identifying. That's the beauty of Narcotics Anonymous, is we do our readings over and over. A hard-headed person like me, I don't know about you, I may hear the same thing 1,000 times, but it doesn't hit me to that 1,001 time I hear it and go, now I get it. Man, I'm glad I kept coming back. Now I know the importance of sitting there. I'm grateful I don't have the addiction of nicotine. I've got one man in my life I pray for on a daily basis. He's been in and out, and I pray that he's going to get it. But the man cannot sit through an hour and a half or 2-hour meeting without going out and having a cigarette. And he may be missing something, the crucial item that's going to help him get it today. But you know what? I can't judge that. When I'm in judgment, I'm in very bad company. I'm by myself. I try and live to the best of my ability on judge. It's not good or bad, right or wrong. It just is. And I fall short a lot. I've had lots of spiritual awakenings. I too listen to my gut. The committee. See, if I'm listening, and I'm in spirituality, but when I'm not listening, the committee is talking. And if I'm listening to this, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble because I am not. This will lie to me. This has always lied to me from day one since I was a shorty. Because I've through working steps, through being in this program for a little while, I've identified the attitudes and behaviors of my addictive personality since I was a little boy, and it's always lied to me. It's always said, you know, me. I don't care about the outcome, consequences. You know, no. But then when my back's against the wall, you know, then what do? You know, if I back myself on the wall where I can't come out clean, you know, I have no one, you know, to blame but myself. But I won't. I'll blame you or that or the, you know, like God or whoever, you know. But you know, I have to take, you know, ownership and responsibility, which is a beautiful thing about working steps, about writing, taking ownership. You know, I put something down on paper. It's like, you know, signing a mortgage. You know, this is mine. This is my garbage. I've done it. I've shared it. You know, do I want to share it openly and honestly, or do I want to just brush over it and say, well, God knows about it anyway? You know, better not call my sponsor. I know what he'll say anyway. You know, the things that rationalization and justification of the most outrageous sort of nonsense. You know, I'm talking about the, you know, stuff I've done clean in the rooms. I ain't talking about, you know, out there. You know, I'm talking about, you know, post August '88, you know, stuff. And I got a lot of stuff going on. You know, I had a situation a couple weeks ago in my home group, and it was very, very interesting how the committee. I listened to the committee and made a mountain out of a molehill. And but you know what? I did what you told me to do. You know, because I was crazy. I was nuts, man. I shared about it. I got some relief, and then I listened. And then we had a member with 30, 40 days clean share where they were at. Another member shared, and man, I'll tell you what, you know, just for today, I got a better perspective on my life, and I was sitting there kind of, you know, going, thank you, you know, thank you, God, I appreciate that. You know, I felt, you know, I was able to see that it was just, it passed. But I know, had I not shared, I would have gone home, I would have been a lunatic, and my wife wouldn't even let me in the house, you know, because she would have said, have you called your sponsor, did you, you know, blah, 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 things like that, you know. I'm grateful for my significant equal and her recovery in her program. But you know, one of the things that I really find which gives me the greatest amount of peace is when I'm living the talk instead of just talking it. You know, I wish that would come on an easier basis. I wish I wouldn't have to hit my head up against. You know, my disease tells me that, you know, you're all right. You've got some time. You've got some experience. You know, but I'm just as sick as anyone else. You know, the difference is I found NA before some of you, and I've stayed, but that doesn't mean that I'm okay. You know, my disease wants me to act out in many different aspects of my life. You know, my attitudes and behaviors, and I'm finding peace and serenity when I'm able to share honestly that yeah, I may have X amount of years clean, but yeah, I'm relating. And if I'm relating, I know that I got some work to do. This is a beautiful way of life. I think we need to give our props to the members that were here when I was new. You know, for the ones that taught me how to live and showed me through their example. I didn't really like them, but you know what? They were there welcoming me in their loving, caring way as best they could. But they gave me a sense of pride of being in this fellowship, and they allowed me to do service, and I watched them, and I watched what they did and how they acted, and you know, and I was like the chameleon, you know, I wanted to fit in, you know, I mean, we fit in good out on the streets, well, we can fit in good in this fellowship too, and I don't know if it was fake it till you make it or whatever, but you know, I did some service and I felt good. I got a little self-esteem. I started feeling good about myself, and I listened to what they were sharing, and they were sharing about working the steps. I believe Narcotics Anonymous is a 12-step program, and I know my sponsor would say, "What step are you on?" So if you ain't working steps, you're shortchanging yourself. If you're not being a service, you're missing out on the beauty of this fellowship. If you're not implementing the steps and the traditions into your recovery, man, you're missing out. Narcotics Anonymous for me, when I wasn't working steps, was a real lonely place. But I remember upon completion of my first 4-step and sharing my 5th step, man, I really felt a part of this fellowship, and it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought, as I had put in my head the projection. And I've been blessed to have some sponsees share theirs with me. I truly believe in this fellowship. I believe in the stories. So listen to the stories, because I really don't believe we have to come up here and make up stuff to sound profound or to sound, my disease was worse than yours, or my recovery is better, with all that surface BS. But I really believe that the stories are true, and if you're not listening and you're not hearing the message, it's like that story I heard about the recovering addict who drowned in a flood, and God sent him a boat, and he said, "Oh, my higher power will save me," and then he sent him a helicopter. Well, the guy died, and he goes to heaven, and he was mad, and God said, "Is that sick SOB who I sent the boat and the helicopter for?" So you just don't ever know when or who you're going to hear the message. And the message is hope. The promise is freedom. And if you're new, welcome to Narcotics Anonymous. Welcome to the greatest fellowship on the planet. I mean, you don't ever have to use again. Absolutely. Give yourselves a hand. This is the only thing that's worked for me. I don't know about you, but I haven't used since I made my first Narcotics Anonymous meeting. But before that, it was many. That first step was like my autobiography. And but Narcotics Anonymous has shown me how to live. It has given me a new way of life. And I've through the steps I've explored some spirituality and done and have not been forced to do these things. I've done them on my own. I had my sponsor I had for 9 years, and the first 5 years I knew he was doing some spiritual work, and he never forced it on me. And when I was ready, I was listening and watching and observing, and I wanted some of the peace that he had, and I've been doing some exploring the last 5 years, and have had some just wonderful experiences, and tapped that power and developed that conscious contact with my higher power. I pray and meditate on a regular basis. I'm talking about every day, because I want what they have. I want that peace and serenity. I want to know that God is there. I do know that. I can feel it. I can see it. I can hear it. You people reinforce it in me every day. I can see the beauty today. The other day I was at work and I was just sitting there. I work outside for a living for a railroad, which isn't a real spiritual place. But I was sitting there, and the sun broke through the clouds, and the ray came through, and I just had a tear on my cheek. Tough ass, railroader, But that's what you guys have given me, because I stayed around and I listened and I heard the message, And it's one other I just wanted to share this. I don't know how spiritual this story is, but it really means a lot to me, because you got to listen. I know I need to listen to the whole story. My sponsor told me that you're very opinionated. I used to be the president of NA and the sheriff and the NA police and all that. I have resigned. I've resigned before they impeached me. And he said, Glenn, you're very emotional, and you feel very strongly about this fellowship. And when you feel strongly about an issue, chances are you probably need to hear the other side. So I was sharing, I thought, with just my sponsees, and it was about the 13th step. And that's all I'm going to say on that. But anyway, a couple of days later, a couple of members of the female gender came up to me and said, "How could you tell your sponsees to go out and get a hooker?" And to say that they only heard half the message. See, what had happened was, let me give you the honest story here. Let me get honest with you. One of my sponsees, who had some years, had come up to me, and a newcomer was interested in him, and I told him, which I guess he wasn't the only one who heard it, was, I would rather you go out and get a hooker than 13-step a newcomer. So what that got to me was, you know what, I've been in the NA Grapevine, been a member, been an active participant, and I've had my butt burned by the NA Grapevine. So it is alive and well. So today, my sponsees know, don't bring that by me, because you know what, I don't care who's doing who's relapsing, because if I'm not there relapsing with them, I don't know, what you see at a meeting, who you hear, don't come to me with a, hey, you know what happened to them? No, if I was not at the meeting, I don't, it's supposed to stay. That gives me peace today. That's not what I want to listen to today. I'm trying to live a spiritual life. I have enough problem here with the committee, then you put all that juicy stuff in on top of it. So, but that's just for me, like I said, it gives me a lot of hope knowing that I can identify that stuff and I don't have to let that control me today. So, there's a spiritual law that says when you receive, you must give, and I believe in that. I don't believe that we're human beings having a spiritual experience. I believe that we're spiritual beings having a human experience, and we will make mistakes and we will fall short, but Narcotics Anonymous says don't pick up the first one, and you have a chance to stay clean today. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that the requirement to be a member of this great fellowship is having a desire to stay clean today on Saturday. And I'm grateful that I have been given an opportunity. Thank you for allowing me to stay clean today and caring enough to help me in my recovery today. There's a Hindu word that says, that means, it's called Namaste, and it says the Spirit of God in me recognizes the Spirit of God in you. And to all of you, Namaste. Thanks for letting me share. I'll keep coming back.
Before we open the floor for sharing, I need to remind everyone that you're being taped. If you wish not to be taped, please let me know so that the tape can be turned off. So the floor is now open for after comments or sharing.
Hey, Don. I'm 51 years old. 7 years clean if I live till Christmas Eve. Everything I know about living, I learned from someone. What you go through. If you didn't learn nothing, you learned something if you went through it clean. I have learned a lot of bullshit. I have learned that sometimes telling the truth is really unpopular and unattractive. I've learned that being honest can be offensive. I had a person say, I want to be here at the meeting, but I have to take some Vicodins because I have a stomach ache. Now, first of all, let me tell you, some of the people in that meeting, that was their drug of choice. I took them. They make your fucking stomach hurt. I said, could you wait till after the meeting and take them? Because you know what? I was told that we don't use in meetings. That's what I was told. I was told we didn't come to meetings to cop. That's what I was told. And I've heard so much funny shit the past 15 years. Hilarious shit. This relationship stuff, it is hilarious. One of my NA gurus, one of my NA gods, For 8 years, abstained from a relationship. Got into it with someone. They were 8 years clean. The other person was 12 years clean. At an H&I meeting in a facility, somebody's tearing somebody's clothes off and screaming. And these are the role models. 8 years clean, 12 years clean. Did that person learn anything by abstaining for 8 years? No. Did I learn how to stay clean by going to meetings? No. I've been coming to meetings on a real regular basis, doing service work. I'm an addict. I'm going to watch what you do and copy you. I spent my whole life doing that. How am I supposed to be acting? Have you ever said this out of your own mouth? I didn't know how to act. Or, I don't know how to act. When I wanted to show that I had some recovery, I was a bona fide service junkie. Because the people that I thought had recovery did service work. I got a job. Because the people that I thought had recovery had jobs. I did everything that I saw them doing, and my life was still a mess, and I was sharing with this person, I can't figure it out why I can't stay clean. See, I wasn't one of them people that got loaded and kept going to meetings pretending like I hadn't. Someone told me early on that a fucked up clean day, and I cuss. Somebody told me, your lack of profanity will not offend anyone, Don. Fuck you. I didn't use in a church. And I didn't use with no religious people. The people I used with would do anything to get over. And we weren't polite about it. But someone told me real early on, because we go out to coffee after a meeting, and I said, that person that was sitting there and they were talking all that shit? They were lying. I said, what do you mean, Don? I said, I know they were lying. I was in the dope house with them. I was shooting dope. I seen them. They're lying. I said, Don, it doesn't matter. They can't get to that recovery part because the lie that they were living when they were using, they're still living. Only ain't about using, it's still about living a lie. I learned right off the rip. Lying about your clean date can stop the process. Living a lie is living a lie. Someone said, and this one I struggled with for 9 years, if it hurts, you don't have to do it. Somebody talks about a simple program. One of my NA guys, that helps write the basic text, I would go to them for these profound things, and I'm like, and I'm doing this shit again, man, and stop doing it. What? Stop doing it. Now, everything that I've learned that matters to me, there's a guy, I just broke his anonymity. There's an addict who ripped my covers off on a regular basis every time I turned around. And my first sponsor, I would call him up, and the reason I call him up was, I want to kill this guy. And he said, well, have you prayed for him? Nope, ain't going to neither. Have you tried talking to him yet? But he won't listen. So I did this on a regular basis, and finally my sponsor said, I don't know, Don. Maybe you need to go over there and beat his ass, and then you'll be okay because he'll stop saying that stuff to you. What kind of stuff was he saying to me? Planning a relapse, Don? That's really sick, Don? Where I would come into a meeting and say some really profound shit, and he would laugh and go, keep coming back, Don. And, I get this thing like, I know I was a basket case when I got here, and thank God that there was members that I believed in, because that gave me the belief in the program. I believe in the program 100%, and I don't mean to offend anybody here. I don't believe in the people. If you're an addict, my belief is you're unreliable, undependable, and I think it talks about that in the basic text. Yeah. Damn sure untrustworthy, and I do believe in the program. I do believe in the principles. And I get to sit in meetings where people talk about what, how much they use, who their connections were, how much or how little they have, and that's their idea of a meeting. And they love that shit, and if you put the brakes on, it's unattractive. If you tell somebody, if you want to use, why don't you wait till after the meeting, or don't come to the meeting? You know, that's unattractive. And I've done that. And I got like 3 people that I know who they're coming up on 5 years clean, and they're telling me how miserable they feel, and how crazy they feel, and how they're judging their recovery, and where they're not where they ought to be. I said, okay, stop focusing on you. Leave you alone. You've been dicking around with you for 4 years, and you ain't where you want to be. Leave yourself alone. Go grab a newcomer. Dick around with them. Listen to them. And you'll start feeling better. And they're like, what the hell are you talking about? I said, this is the part where we give back what was given to us. The real, it's not that talking shit for an hour in a meeting. And sometimes it's a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Because I'll tell you what, I can't listen to you if my guts are grinding in hunger. And I've seen people be offended when people showed up at meetings high. And someone told me that was at some of the very first meetings in California, they told me that a lot of times there was only one person there who was clean. And most times everybody there was loaded except one person. So sometimes a peanut butter jelly sandwich, a cup of coffee, a ride, a hug. To me, the best part of NA is a hug. All the philosophical shit is right out the window. Because I've talked it, I've tried to walk it, I've learned a lot, and I've learned it from other people, and it's always been real simple stuff. My steps are real fucking simple. Guess what? I made a major discovery after going to meetings and doing all this really complicated shit for years. I made a discovery. Steps don't work for victims. Guess what? Not only was I a victim, but a victimizer. Today, I'm trying to have this awareness of what I do to other folks, and I damn sure ain't letting you get away with it with me no more. You know, and all the, you hurt me, I hurt you, blah, 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 and you made me mad because you don't like what I like, and that's all dysfunctional shit. You know, the word autonomy, the great part of that word, means that you don't gotta like what I like. You don't gotta know what I know. I told somebody outside, you know what? Nobody's ever gonna know how you feel. Nobody's ever gonna know what your recovery means to you. Nobody's ever gonna know what you're learning at your rate of learning but you. Nobody's ever gonna set your goals in recovery but you. If someone else is setting your goals, you're fucked. You either ain't gonna be able to make them or come over and do some work around my house. You know? Shut up and listen. I made the comment yesterday, shut up and serve. Give somebody a fucking hug, a sandwich, a ride, and stop talking this shit. There is no 13th step. And there ain't no fucking victims here. When he shared that, Glenn shared, go get a hooker, my nephew goes to meetings, and that's how he got to NA. He goes, gee, Uncle Donnie, I want to go down and see some hookers. I said, come on, I'll take you. We went to a meeting. We're sitting there. He goes, man, come on, I want to go see some hookers. I said, there's one sitting on each side of you. He says, no, man, I mean the real ones. I said, they're breathing. They got skin. Somebody heard me saying that at the New Year's Eve dance, and they got salty with me. I said, well, why don't you pay attention? Why do you hear what you want to hear and run with it? I don't know you well enough to judge you, but you judge me. You know, because you know what? Every meeting that my nephew's been in has been in because of an attraction, not because anybody made him go. And I listen to that ridiculous shit that goes on in these meetings I go to. And you know what? Those of you that know me know that when I came here, I would hitchhike to meetings all over the area, because that's what I was taught. I knew more about fucking traditions before I ever got close to a step. I worked traditions hard before I ever worked a step. I spent my first 5 years trying to get a grip on what the first step was. I thought it was having a job, a woman, a good car, and all that other good shit, but you know, it says in the basic text that ain't it. But I did that, and I did understand because I had some people. What are you doing, Don? Oh, nothing. Well, come on. There's a new meeting in Moorhead, Kentucky. We lived in Huntington, West Virginia. There's a new meeting in Moorhead, Kentucky. We're going to go down there and support that meeting. This shit cracks me up. We were on the road 2 hours going to a new meeting. See, I learned all about that first tradition without no book. You know, I'm going to get back to this relationship shit. I want to tell you, I'm going to hip you to something that you never knew. Women in NA had to have a fucking man sponsor or they wouldn't be here. My first grand sponsor was a woman. My first NA sponsor was a woman. And guess what? She told me it's not okay to use anybody. Anyone. Whether in this fellowship, another fellowship, or not in the fellowship. So now let's get back to this 13th step. When people are using people, does it really matter whether they're male or female? And do only guys use girls? Check out some NA history about suicide. It's the tough guys who commit suicide behind fucked up relationships. It's the hard guys who try to prove how much they don't care, that when she needs to discover herself and have some space, and I have grown to where I have this awareness of myself now, and I don't need to use you anymore. Check some statistics out. In the basic text, it doesn't talk about any kind of addict but one. It doesn't talk about promoting fear as a message of recovery. It doesn't talk about promoting suspicion, distrust. Those are not spiritual principles. They're not. If you're going around talking shit because somebody said it to you and it sounded cool and you didn't investigate it, you're doing damage. And I don't know if y'all had that carry the message already, but you're not carrying no message, you're carrying a mess. When you're promoting shit that came out of treatment centers, it's not NA. You know, NA was founded because we weren't allowed to talk. We had to sit in the back of the room and shut the fuck up. And if we got clean, cool, and if we didn't, tough shit. You know, and there was 5 fucking people. People talk about self-will. NA became NA over self-will. A person signed their name to a meeting that wasn't at the meeting. Jimmy K. Wasn't at the fucking meeting. There was a vote taken. And NA got to be NA instead of NAAA for one vote of a person who wasn't there. Self-will. What makes this program work? When I'm hurting and your heart hears my heart and you're not hearing my ego and you're not judging me about how I look and how I dress and all the fucked up shit I did, that's how NA works. When I come to you and ask you to help me, or you come to me and ask me to help you, that's when the heartbeat of NA happens. I run some fucking people out of here, and you know what? Tough shit. Because you know what? I've been saying this for 15 years. There's believers, there's deceivers, and there's poor in-betweeners. And the ones who suffer the most are the in-betweeners. The believers don't have a struggle. We just got a war with assholes who promote bullshit on a regular basis. That's it. That's all we gotta do, you know? We gotta go, fuck you, that's bullshit. Yeah. And then there you go, goes, I have an overly sensitive ego. Deal with it, motherfucker. Work the steps, call your sponsor, read the basic text. I don't do anything today more than I have to. You know what? If I was on a convention committee and I wanted to see how well I was doing, I would pat myself on the back when the convention was sold out a year in advance. That's when I would start patting myself on the back. Not till then. If I was, and I did all the service shit, you know, I had these friends that were on the World Service, and we met at a convention, and I had relapsed, you know, and they're like, so are you going to get involved on that NA history book? And I'm like, I can't. Bullshit, you can, why not? I'm like, I don't have a clean time. You'd think that I fucking told them I had some active disease that was going to kill them on the spot.
Right.
And all that I did was I proved that I am a member, I am an addict. Somebody said yesterday, well, don't it fuck you up when somebody with 15 or 18 years tells you they relapse? I said, not anymore. So, and I only promote one key tag, it's telling the truth, the white one. That's it. That serene shit I'm still waiting on. At 90 days, I was clean and crazy. At a year, I was clean and miserable. I've had all kinds of choices, but I ain't got to that clean and serene yet. I look at it like, okay, well, that's part of the 11-step promise. When I get there, I'll get there. You know, I ain't there. So some people have taught me that I was willing to listen to. And I was never willing to listen to game players, whether it was in the penitentiary or in shooting galleries or wherever it was. Bullshitters never carried a whole lot of weight with me. And you wasn't getting over on me. And there have been some people that are real important in my life, and I consider them spiritual advisors. They all didn't have to be my sponsor, but they were all my teachers. You know, and the basic text says that we do not judge, stereotype, moralize. Let me tell you something. I started laughing. I walked in this meeting, and they're having a fight because one person busted out the other person for using on the way to the meeting, and they're talking about trust. And I ain't coming to this fucking meeting anymore. I can't trust nobody. And da da da. And I was laughing. I thought this was a joke, and they were serious. I started laughing. I said, "Let me tell you something, okay? We say that we don't talk about you. It's a lie. If you come around here, you're going to get talked about, so you need to get used to it."
Right.
I said, people talked about you out there. What makes you think they're going to stop now? You know, if people ain't talking about you, you ain't going to meetings. You ain't going to no service committees. You ain't going to no service committees. You ain't involved in shit. If nobody's talking about you, now I want to get to a real. This is something here that's real near and dear to my heart. Okay. We ain't practicing no fucking principles when we single out a member, and try to put them in a pigeonhole them, trap them someplace for year after year after year, saying, I don't know, you know, it could be me avoiding this person because of the way they talk, or maybe they stutter, or maybe they walk funny, or maybe they don't dress right, and year after year after year, and me keeping them in the same spot. Can I tell you something? Ain't none of us where we was 10 years ago. And if we're trying to keep somebody in that hole for 10 fucking years, what kind of shit is that? And when we're talking about principles, about forgiveness, and about love, and about all these things that we talk about in steps, how in the fuck do we go home at night and lay down and go, wow, I was so spiritual today? To me, that's more dysfunctional shit. I'm okay, he's fucked up. Or, I'm not as fucked up as he is. But here's what Don Bentley, I don't have no secrets and I ain't hiding from nobody. Here's what I believe. Ain't none of us victims. From the day that we got a choice, we stopped being victims. Some of us are still victimizers, and it doesn't have anything to do with race, sex, religion, creed, lack of religion. It's what we know. It's how we got here. It's how we live. It's what we believe in. My struggles in recovery today is mostly about battling belief systems that are archaic, meaning that they don't apply to today. If someone pisses me off and I want to bust them in the head with a hammer, it is not appropriate behavior. I still have the thoughts. It's a belief system. And this addict says, well, I feel this way about myself and about my recovery. And I said, well, grab a newcomer. Listen to their insanity. Tell them they're full of shit. Tell them to keep coming back. Teach them to know where the periods are. That's real important. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop using. Period. Period. In the basic text it says that, talking about, your meetings and stuff. We tell them it keeps coming back because it works. Period. Don't put a bunch of fucking conditions on it and make it sound like, damn, that sounds really impossible to me. They're telling me I gotta do all that shit? Fuck that, I'm gonna go get high and have some fun. It works. If you know it works, why you gotta say a bunch of dumb shit and discourage somebody? How's that upbuilding someone? You trying to make yourself sound like you got an inside track on something that they can't get? The worst thing is not knowing where the periods are. I remember when we were going to move that period in the third tradition. There's a period in the fifth tradition. If we don't know where the periods are, we're bullshitting and we ain't carrying no message. And don't go home tonight telling yourself what a spiritual being you are if you haven't reached out for someone else and tried to ease their pain or tried to understand. See, and people talk about recovery and working steps. When you're not working steps, you want to be understood. You want everybody to understand why you're fucked up the way you are and why you do things the way you do and everything. You know what? My belief is once you start working the steps, you stop needing to be understood. And you need to start understanding. Understanding. I sit there and a friend of mine, we were NA Nazis together and kicked a lot of ass and everything, and he was telling me, man, these motherfuckers ain't doing nothing right, and they're doing this and they're doing that, I said, dude, come to these fucking meetings that I go to. I said, better yet, in your area, if there's meetings where it's all newcomers, go there and sit there. I said, guess what? If nothing else, you'll leave with some appreciation for those addicts who are doing everything wrong. You've got to have some appreciation for them. So my thing is not shut up and listen. It's shut up and serve. It's don't tell me, show me. It's don't lie to me, lie to your friends. They need it, I don't. I got a friend that says that some of us are sicker than others, and I said, that's the damn truth. But I'm trying to get better, and I've made a little bit of progress. And I do love Narcotics Anonymous with all my heart. And when the other night I wasn't going to go to a meeting because I had some real important things that had to do with video film to do, and someone called and they said, this newcomer needs to talk to you. If they'd have said anything other than that, the plans would have went as planned. And let's give some relief, and by that let's stop telling them that it's easy and then turn right around and confuse the fuck out of them and make it seem unattainable. Let's show them that it's easy. Let's believe in them. The only thing that got me here today was there was one person who believed in me. One. And that's all any of us need is one person who, that when we don't believe in ourselves anymore, we have that security that there is one person in the world who believes I can do it. I've got that person. And that person is big in NA. And they're a teacher. And they don't teach an hour at a time. If you go to a meeting with them and you hear what they have to say, you go to their work, they're the same way, saying the same thing. If you go to their house, same stuff. They're consistent and congruent. And that's the requirements to be able to trust. Consistency and congruency. What they say and what they do matches. It matches. So, if you can't think of what to say, somebody ask them if they want a fucking cup of coffee or a sandwich. If you feel like your skin's crawling, all you want to do is run because you're all up inside of your head. See how somebody else's head is doing. Share yourself with someone else, you know. The things that I've learned, I ask. And all the help that I got, I ask for. I don't help nobody that don't ask. People ask me to sponsor them, I go, sure. I know they ain't going to call. Fuck, they sit with me in a meeting, I know they ain't going to call. I talk shit about working steps. I talk shit about recovery being an active change of attitude, beliefs, thinking, especially what we know about the truth. I know they ain't going to call. So I said, yeah, sure, I'll do that. Yeah, no problem. You know? So, I've learned to love some people, and I told somebody before I came in here, there's some things that I'm working on that I was working on 15 years ago when I first came to NA. I still struggle with some of the same things. Does that mean that I'm fucking insane? No! It's a learning process, and I haven't learned yet how to do that. I've learned how to do some other things, so I have some faith that if I keep trying, I'm going to learn how to do that. And I ain't going to tear nobody's clothes off in an H&I meeting. I'm not going to give the staff and residents the idea that, wow, people in NA are fucking psychos. I'm not going to go out and do PI work without reading any PI literature. I'm not going to represent this fellowship as anything other than what it is, you know. I quote the basic text. I believe everything in the basic text is true. Today I believe that all the answers to all my problems are in the basic text. Yeah. Trust me, I went through all that bullshit of codependency. Guess what? They got 12 steps. Not good as ours, but they got 12. Whatever fucking problem I want to go to, I can apply some steps to it. So the addict who told me when I used to call them, I really didn't want any help, I just wanted them to go on a date with me. And they'd go, have you read the basic text? And I said, no, I haven't. It's not in there. My problem's not in there. And they're like, oh yes, all your problems are in there. And today, I'm adamant about that. I'm adamant that that recovery is more than not using drugs, and I had to get that shit off my chest, you know, because I've got tons of experience in NA, but I don't have no fucking experience of going to meetings where everybody is talking that shit. Nobody's staying clean. I keep talking to people. I go to my sponsor and I'm like, man, I've had a lot of experience, but I haven't experienced this. What the fuck do you do? How do you deal with that? Do you say, you know what? This is a Narcotics Anonymous meeting, and when you want to get clean, come back. I talked to one person that's been around here for a long time, and they said, fuck it, close the meeting. I'm like, I never heard of that before. I really haven't. I don't think it's in any of the literature. But I don't have any experience with this either, you know, and I know that every problem I've ever had since I found NA, I've always found at least 5 or 6 people that had the exact same problem and share it with me. But you know, I was thinking about calling some of the people that started the NA in West Virginia, because they used to go to Allentown, Pennsylvania for meetings. And I thought, well, when they first started meetings, they probably had that experience. I don't do it for my ego. I do it because that's what keeps me clean. And the difference between me and them is I believe it, they don't. I want to stay clean, they don't. And I'm glad that I came up here, because I need to get this shit off my chest, and I got to go open a fucking meeting. I want to stay here, but I got to go open a fucking meeting, because that was one of the first things I was told. It's Memorial Day, so it's a holiday. Addiction doesn't take fucking weekends and holidays off. You know, so I gotta go be responsible and open a meeting, and that's what I'm gonna do. And I'm glad that y'all allowed me to share this.
Thank you for sharing.
Would you like to help me close the meeting with a group hug?